watching. This is the Deacon Speaks channel. I am the Deacon. I got Michelle Norton here with me. Say hello, Michelle.
Hi.
Michelle and I went to college together at North Park University. We studied psychology. Well, I studied psychology primarily. Michelle was a double major, as I found out through my research. But we both ended up in the same profession after college. So I wanted to bring her on today just to kind of talk about our experiences, talk about recruiting, um, what she has cooking up after recruiting, or maybe even what she's doing now in her personal projects. That's one thing I've always admired about Michelle. So, wanted to ask you, why North Park? How did you end up going there? What was the decisions behind it? And yeah, what were your overall thoughts on the school?
Yeah. Oh, it's so many good questions. I chose North Park just because first it was close to home. Didn't want to go too far away. My nieces were just born, so I wanted to be like a really cool aunt and be local and still see them. And then the small class sizes was the biggest thing for me. I'm a huge believer of you take your education and you have to make it yours. It doesn't really matter where you go as long as you feel at home. And the small class sizes build those relationships. You're not just a number to a teacher. You're not just like, oh, I don't know who this person is. So that was huge. And then I also wanted to dance. So that was a kind of a factor, D3. Hey, it's not D1. That doesn't matter. We still got some grit thrown in there, and also did not want to be in debt. That's a huge thing, is the financial burden of schools. So, of course, hey, who's going to give me the most money, and where am I going to not be $200,000 in debt? That was a big decision as well.
Very fair. Money talks.
It does. It does.
So in dancing, I didn't know. So was that with the football team, or did basketball do dancing too? I
Yeah, we had basketball halftime. We would do a couple games and stuff, and competition season, basketball season.
okay,
It was pretty much like 3 out of 4 seasons, if you will.
got it. Okay, so that I guess at the time that I was playing basketball, I didn't know this. I don't think we had dancers. I'm a little bit older than Michelle. Okay, and I'd
Not
say
that
my
much.
reasons for picking North Park were a little bit different than yours. It really was just basketball at first. In fact, we speak about college debt. I was on a D1 scholarship and I decided D3. And with that, one of the considerations was I'm going to be in debt now. So, um,
Yeah, it's crazy.
but the reason after I played basketball professionally, the reason I came back was exactly what you said. I did see the community aspect of it, smaller class sizes. I had a good relationship with Dr. Gray, as you know.
Yes.
We love Dr. Gray.
Yes.
And I decided, you know what, I want to finish my degree here. So definitely understand that. Now, it's my understanding when if someone's double majoring in something, which to me I can't even fathom how anyone gets through that, especially with the extracurriculars you were doing. It means a lot of intent towards something, a career that you're going for. I think you were a psych major as well as
Mhm.
a communications.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So why that?
Yeah. I think I decided as a freshman because my senior year in high school, I took like an AP psychology course, and I didn't even take the AP test. I didn't really care about credits or anything. I just wanted to be exposed to that class. And then I was like, oh, I really, really like this. And that was one of the reasons why I chose it at North Park, just because I was like, this is so interesting. I'm learning about how my brain works. And I always knew I liked people. And I thought that was a really good reason, no matter your profession. It's kind of like, hey, we're all humans at the end of the day. We have this neuroplasticity and amygdala, and we got to figure out how our brains work at like a root level. But honestly, I think I knew I was going in as a communications major, but then I heard all this stigma around like that major is the easiest thing, college athletes just do that to pick a major. But I was like,
Hey,
I
hey,
actually
hey.
like it. No, trust me, I like it and I find it interesting. But that's why I double majored. and just growing up with like two blue collar parents, they're always working, loyalty, never miss a day.
Mm.
I always have applied myself and been like extra credit queen since fourth, fifth grade. So Miss McGee, wherever she is today, she instilled that also from a young age in me.
Shout out
So
Miss McGee.
yeah, Miss McGee. It's the teachers, man. It makes your just like life what it is today. But yeah, so it was a mix of really just loving people. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this it was more or less an afterthought between the two, but learning how we function in the way we speak really relates to how our bodies are programmed. So the two just kind of sandwiched together mighty
It's
finely.
funny you say there's a stigma on communication arts that just dumb athletes like me get into those majors because it's the easiest. Because I didn't know that that stigma was there. In fact, when I chose psychology, um, I it, the stigma that I had around it was unless you get your master's and your PhD, you can't really do much with it. And I kind of knew that, but at the time, I mean, this was like my fourth major in my college career. It was really around, hey, I'm here to hoop. I'm here to put up 1,000 shots a day. But psychology, naturally, I've always just observed people. Why do we do what we do in this environment versus this situation and versus all the controlled variables and whatnot. I'm not going to get too scientific, but you knew communications what you wanted to do. Was there a certain job that you wanted to get into with that?
Yeah, I think when just talking with my parents, they're like, "Oh, what are you gonna go to school for?" And keep in mind, like both of my parents never went to college, and so they understood that I like had to go, but they didn't experience it themselves. And so I'm kind of chatting with them, like, what would I be good at? What did you ever explore in your life? And something that always stuck out to me was like hospitality. So my dad at one point was like working at a hotel motel, he always called it. So I think even naturally in college, like I was a server, I did all these little side jobs that was mostly customer service. So elevating that to have an awesome experience, I just figured anything in that realm, whether it's restaurant, hotel, motel, customer service was honestly what I wanted to do. But beyond that, I didn't know recruiting was a thing.
Going back to like the customer service real quick. I mean, I know you're an ice skater, right?
Yeah.
And you skate. Do you still skate for the Blackhawks or?
Yeah. I sure wish. I will say if anyone those personnel aren't watching, but if anyone could have some say of getting us back through COVID, they kind of took us away. So this is the first season that we're not officially there. So I
Okay.
understand things change and whatnot, but we were the last crew. So I mean, forever in
Oh
history.
wow.
Something.
Put you guys on the wall of
Goes in the
fame or
books.
something.
Yeah.
No, but I bring that up because I would imagine with that there's, even though you're not necessarily, you can't really talk to fans, I don't think, because you're on the ice, but just having the smile on, that's a part of communications, I believe. I'm sure you learned that in communication arts. The smile on, even if you're having a bad day, that's customer service. And yes, with recruiting, you got to do the same thing. You're having a bad day, you can't let it show. You got to bring the energy. So since the class we had was IO Psych, so industrial and organizational psych, that's where I got excited about recruiting. But was that where you identified the profession of recruiting and how,
Oh
yeah?
yeah. No, 100%. I knew I wanted to take that class, and sometimes hard to schedule things with your advisor. And I'm like, no, I'm not taking any other class. Like, I'm waiting till this one opens up. So even like the thought of it excited me. And then sitting in there, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be in like HR. Doing this, I didn't want to know like the benefits and all the like details per se, but being the front face and the first person to get to meet and walk you through a process. I wanted to be that person as no matter even my first job out of school, it wasn't recruiting, but I was the person always walking around the office, building the culture. And I think that's the funnest part of being a recruiter is just building that.
No, yeah, that I didn't even know what IO Psych was. Honestly,
Yeah.
I was sitting in Dr. Gray's office just trying to figure out my credits, and because I'm I'm now the 28-year-old guy on campus around all these young people. I'm just like, hey, Dr. Gray, let's get this figured out so I can graduate. She was, running through some classes. I don't even think IO Psych was like, I was like, it was the only thing that was open, really. And I said, all right, Dr. Gray, what is this? When she explained it to me, I'm okay. So my bachelor's degree in psychology can be used in the corporate world. That's kind of how I got into it. And seeing as I was an athlete, two of my best friends were recruiters at the time. It sounded like the job sounded like hell compared to that, like their stories, which it kind of is sometimes. But
Yeah.
as an athlete, I dealt with agents before. It's kind of the same thing, and from there, it's like, yep, this is it. I remember we used to sit in the front of the class, which
Yeah.
if, if you knew me from years prior, I was in the back and I was sleeping. And you can ask Dr. Gray too. I don't know why she still liked me, um,
Aw.
but what I, compared to any of the other psychology classes, where did you see the difference there? Because to me, I felt like it was straight up HR.
Yeah. That's it. I think it was the most applicable. Maybe just because it's our mindset. We just wanted to be that go-to person in, I don't know, a room, an organization, and that's where it felt the most applicable.
Right.
I knew I never wanted to be like a therapist. Like, even though as a recruiter you are a therapist, like, tell me what you're thinking. You have to ask the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, but I think it is more of a, I guess, long term play. This career that this person's coming into is a third of their life. You play for 8 hours a day, sleep for 8 hours a day, and work 8 hours a day. So this is a huge decision that someone's making. And compared to other classes, of course, this was the most applicable, but I had to do a Dr. Bennett, like, little shout out. He did the most
Shout out
creative
Dr. Bennett.
projects.
Yes.
That's what makes it stick in your brain, also. So I remember we had to pick a song, like, from the radio, a song,
Yep.
and apply all these terms to it. And I picked, like, the worst song. Like, what is it? Like, oh, I'm gonna blank on the
Lady
name of it.
Gaga.
I did not pick Lady
Sia.
Gaga. It's the Saucy Band, like the 50 Shades of Grey
Oh,
guy. What is?
wait, the weekend?
Yes, The Weekend. Thank you. I don't know why I
Because
was
it was the
blanking on
soundtrack.
it. Yes. Okay. So
Little
The
trivia
Weekend.
for the folks.
Yes. Oh yeah. Play at home. But I picked like this saucy song, and I'm like, you had to sing it essentially in front of the class.
Oh, I
Like,
didn't.
this will not sing it, but
You had to break down the lyrics though.
break down the lyrics. And so I talk
That's
sang the
that's
entire song, and
provocative.
it was, and I remember it vividly, and I'm sure no one else forgot it.
I picked a J. Cole song. It had
Ooh.
some swears in it and everything. I got an A though. That year that I went back to school was the first time I ever got like A's and B's only. So very proud of that. But yeah, I think that class was learning and cognition. Sorry
Mm-hmm.
if we're getting too nerdy, people.
Yeah.
But it was learning and cognition. He also had us do a paper on. He had us watch the first episode, the pilot episode of Rick and Morty,
Oh,
which
did he?
I just loved that. And then we had to apply it to what we were learning. And uh, yes, Dr. Bennett, shout out to you because he was
Mm-hmm.
very creative in his style of teaching for sure. I actually didn't like him very much the first time around. I thought he was kind of pretentious,
A little
that
scared. I was like,
smart
ooh.
college. He's a genius, really, but I grew to respect him. Anyway, actually, graduation. I want to bring that up because I thought this was funny, and we talked about this. A bunch of psychology majors who I don't know. Am I getting my master's? Am I getting my PhD? What kind of job can I get now? Um, College life and fun time is over. I feel like me and you were the only ones that already had like an offer, and a start date ready to go even before graduation. Um, but you said it wasn't recruiting at first.
Yeah, it wasn't recruiting at first. And also, side note, shout out to us. I think it goes back to that, like, athlete mindset. And that's like a side thing. I love working with candidates who have an athletic background because they get it. This is like deadline, game day, whatever you want to call it. That's that mindset. So I appreciate that. But yeah, my first job out of school, I did work with a recruiter, and I would like adored working with him, and he kind of just showed me all the things that I wanted to be. But this one role, if you will, it was a sales position, but it was like cold call, smile and dial. I didn't know any better. This is your first job out of school, so I will say if there's like younger professionals looking for their first career, just take the opportunity. You'll learn
Hmm.
what you want to do from there. So that is my biggest advice. You'll learn no matter where you go, but in this role, love the people, love the organization, but the day to day role, I was clawing my eyeballs out. And for me being a very positive person, I was literally like concerned with my health. I was like, I can't sit in a room with no windows and call 400 people across the country that I'm never going to meet. That's like psychologically damaging. I don't know, for me
Yeah.
being an extroverted person. He's like very real with me. So working with a recruiter who's real, that is what instilled values in me.
Mm.
He was pretty much just like stay in his job for 90 days, probably one for two reasons. Maybe he got paid at that
Probably.
time. I respect that. But also, that gives you 3 months is a pretty good adjustment to say, like, hey, I tried it. I kind of figured it out. I realized I didn't like it. So I appreciated his advice. I took his word. I stayed 90 days, but in that time frame, I was already recruited out to be a recruiter.
Mm.
So working with Kyle from who brought me to my last role, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to be like a Kyle. This is cool.
my
So
my hero.
exactly. So it was kind of a no-brainer to leave, and I was so much more happy.
Right. No, and actually, shout out to Kyle. I don't know what company he worked at. Sounds like a Aerotech type of. Was it Aerotech?
It was like some acronym that I'm dyslexic, and it was like TGE or
Oh,
some
well,
letters. I'm not even sure what
staffing
company.
company is what it sounds like.
Staffing.
But shout out to him because any recruiters listening to this or any new recruiters, um, what he did was he set those expectations. Even if he was worried that, giving you the real information, you might have been like, fuck this,
Yeah.
and just he gave it to you straight, and you got your job done. He probably got paid his little bonus, but that's a huge thing because I don't think recruiters do that these days. Okay, so then the first recruiting job, I think it was Robert Half.
Yes, sir. Robert Half.
So another staffing company. I've done my staffing time. How was that?
That I like adored it. Maybe it was because anything was better than the first role. But no, they gave me a lot of
Perspective.
just yeah, exactly. But they gave me a lot of diversity in my day. So of course I started off like recruiting, taking applications, meeting them either in the office over the phone and just getting to like learn about them. I adored that. And I did temporary staffing. So I was, meeting a lot of people, even if it was like a 20 person I always call them like volunteer projects. Hey, this is for like 3 days or 2 weeks.
Oh, you had to
Here's a
recruit for
job.
that. That's tough.
Yeah. So it was also very hard to find someone who immediately wants, their availability is only so slim. So that was a challenge I had to like work around and really learn the coordination piece.
And actually,
Um,
sorry, how do you even
yeah,
find some? Where do you go to find someone that's gonna be on
yeah.
like a 2 week
I think
job?
a lot of the
Indeed.
people like they just had a fluent lifestyle where they like didn't have to work or they were a student or a
Yeah,
lot
they're
of them had
ghosts. They're
yeah,
like so. They're not on LinkedIn. I'll tell you that.
yeah.
So would you? It was it like Indeed or
It was mostly we'd find them like they applied to a lot of our roles. So I
mm,
didn't even really use LinkedIn until I came here at Northwestern Mutual. So there's a whole new learning curve, but just applications truly.
internally? I'm sorry.
Yes, internally. So like we had like a
It's
Robert
older
Half
people.
website. Oh no,
Yeah.
it's all good. We had a website and they would just apply and I just would honestly call down the line and it
Okay.
helped because they were already interested. So that was a easier piece. I didn't have to always sell the role. It was like, hey, you applied, let's do this.
Right. In my first role with Populous Group, it was a staffing company. We had the ability with LinkedIn to post our roles, what we had open. The tough part about that, when we're talking about software engineers, data engineers, and stuff, and you leave it open where anyone can apply, I've seen some pizza delivery. Nothing wrong with pizza delivery drivers,
They're my favorite.
but can you code in .NET framework with C sharp? I don't think
Yeah.
so. So it was kind of tough using that. I kind of just got away from it and did the typical sourcing. But so overall, you liked Robert Half, right? Why did you leave?
Why did I leave? Actually, it kind of wasn't by choice. The pandemic
You got
came
fired?
and we were all laid off on April 1st of all days. I was like, this is a joke, right? Like April 1st.
That's messed up.
So yeah, I know COVID hit in like March 2020. They kept us on for like 2 weeks and we're like, oh, it's fine, no big deal. Everything will be great. And then like a week later, that happened. So I get it. No one was hired. People have to do what they have to do. It. I was kind of, the newest person.
Mm.
It was my first year. I understood. But when people are there for 15, 20 years, it's kind of like, ooh, that burns.
Yeah. Okay. So then, was it immediately? Was there immediate opening for Northwestern Mutual, or um, did you have to kind of sit around in COVID for a little bit?
Yeah. I would say like Northwestern Mutual, we never closed our doors, which was the beautiful thing. They were always working. They laid no one off. And truly through COVID was the company's best year in 165 years
True.
of history. So they were definitely thriving. I started talking to them at the end of May, so even let's say June, and I started working by the end of August. I think they just wanted to prepare everything for me. So, and honestly, we take our time a little bit here, especially for internal staff roles, to make sure you want it. I
Yeah.
wanted it. I kept, reaching out, talking with all the team members. That's what definitely sold me. Is I got to meet not only like my immediate team, but it's like, hey, let's all meet so and so and so and so.
Hmm.
So that piece was really cool that I came in already knowing so many people, so it was an easy transition and just kind of hit the ground
So
running.
my
No,
understanding with Northwestern Mutual, um, that's going to be insurance. That's going to be 401ks. It's going to be investments. All of that stuff. Correct?
definitely. We do full comprehensive financial planning.
Full comprehensive. So with COVID, yeah, I mean, everyone wants insurance probably. Everyone needs to be insured. I think the stocks were very low. People were probably investing at a high rate, so I could see why they stayed busy. Um, and also, I understand the slower, I don't want to say sales cycle, but the recruiting cycle because anyone that's going to be working at Northwestern Mutual as like an agent or representative, I'm not sure what you guys call them,
Yeah.
but that's also a very more of a salesy role than let's say what you were doing before or a software engineer, and that's a slow
Mhm.
cycle. It's all about relationship building
Yes.
and the interpersonal aspects there, which is something I learned at Guaranteed Rate recruiting for that. So I admire you for being in that. I couldn't do it. You know,
Well, I'm sure
I
you
just wanted to. I wanted to nerd out about technology and stuff, and so. But what that's what intrigues me about you as a recruiter, like how you thrived in that. Like what else was it about the people or the process that really? It sounds like Northwest Mutual. Say that 5 times fast.
did.
It sounds like it stuck for you. So what all was it?
Yeah, no, and full transparency, my first conversation, Jackie, she was in the Schaumburg office, amazing. Now she's with our like home office in Milwaukee. Love her. She reached out on LinkedIn, was like, "Hey, we should have a conversation." And I like looked into the company a little bit. I was like, "Ew, like accounting, finance." I was like, "I don't do money. I never want to work in a bank. Like, no way, no how." And so I told her like, "No." And she reached
Hard
out
to
about
get.
like a yeah, no, no. But truly, I just didn't think it would be a fit. I was like, no. And usually I'm an open book. I was even kind of surprised I said no. I thought I was going to go with a different company and kind of start my own office. It was a different kind of staffing firm, and they wanted me to like open that first new office. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go over
Oh
here.
wow.
But Jackie, she reached out like a week and a half later, was like, hey, I think we should just really have a conversation. I was like, you know what? Yes, I am always about conversations and meeting people. Why did I say no anyway? So I had the conversation with her. We were on a Zoom. and I fell in love with her and just how she described the company. And she sent me this little like flip snack, which is essentially like a brochure about our Chicagoland office. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it broke everything down, the marketing of it all. That's what also caught my attention. So from that point on, I was sold and I got to meet more. I got to meet our district director, Peggy, at the time. I got to have a whole panel and meet all of the recruiters who I would be working with in each office. So I got to meet my immediate team, the office team. That was the best part is just it never stops. And I like the prestige of it. I had to create a presentation and give it to our like chief development officer and all the recruiters, and essentially had a Zoom panel. I had to create a whole presentation about like my story, the things I'm interested in, the things I think I could bring to the team. So
Wow.
felt very valued. My opinion mattered, and I got to present that to like the chief development officer, Chris, and just meet everyone. So it felt so just real and like a family, and that's what instilled me to be a better recruiter on my side is make it memorable, make an experience, learn their story,
Yeah.
and even on the candidate side, like having that perspective of being so different and taking the time to just learn more about them, that will make the ultimate difference.
I guess most people would be nervous about, I don't know what I'm talking about, my ideas, what can I really offer? But if you get hired after that, after putting yourself out there, your vision as a recruiter, what you can bring to the table, I think it's fair to believe that okay, they really want to invest in me here. They see that I fit and I should just go in and do what I do. So that is pretty
Yeah,
cool. Kind of shifting a little bit because I think this is going to segue into what you're doing now. Uh,
yeah,
Full disclosure, Michelle is no longer a recruiter. She moved into a new role very recently, more on the marketing side of things, correct?
yeah. So this is my new marketing office. We have all our organization ideas. We got the calendar over here, a lot of collaboration. We got a table back here. So announcement goes out Monday, and I'm officially starting October 7th on the marketing side. Of course, kind of dripping in both sides, and the two go hand in hand pretty
Which,
perfectly.
exactly, in which I was gonna say, it seemed like you were already kind of doing that for the. I think um, I want to say like a year ago, I started noticing on LinkedIn you were very active. A lot of like challenges, videos, interviews with. I think you did a. I watched a couple interviews you did with someone else on LinkedIn. I think he's a real estate
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah. Mr.
Um,
Dave Lasavio, he's phenomenal.
he's a very energetic guy. I like his little his takes on things. But you were just the level of engagement you have with your community, whether it's LinkedIn. That's what I was able to see. I would imagine with Northwestern Mutual, you were doing more than just recruiting. So what did that look like aside from these little challenges and personal projects you're doing? Were you bringing that into your role, I guess, even though it wasn't in your job description?
Yeah, I think I advise everyone to do that is yes, you have a just job description at the end of the day, that's what you're designed to do, but you will know you are with the right company if you allow that autonomy, flexibility, and freedom. I had a lot of like think time, if you will, to make this role and make my brand. And I think that's the most exciting thing, not only as an advisor, a recruiter, a staff personnel on our team, you have the capabilities to do whatever's exciting to you. So I always love marketing events and philanthropy, and we call them border reviews. So it's like, what's going well this quarter? And I'm like, well, honestly, my goals is at least to volunteer once per month, post at least 2, 3 times a week, and just kind of consult and educate others, not only on the recruiting side, saying, hey, this will be a good fit for you, or honestly, let's be real, I know someone else in a different organization that might be just a really good mentor for you. So really spreading those connections and just being who I wanted to be. They even said, hey, this could be a better fit for you. You kind of made your current role, the marketing events philanthropy type role, which I appreciate. To have the flexibility, that was key.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just adding value all around. And I think that's a recruiter should be, yes, a recruiter has to hit their numbers and make sure whatever roles they're working on, they get their certain amount of interviews set up and offers, all that stuff. But kind of like a salesperson, you got to go into each conversation just looking to add value. And
Mhm.
sometimes that could mean saying, hey, look, I don't have anything that, after speaking with you and really diving in, I don't really think I have anything that could, I can't help you in any way, at least not at this time. But I know some other people that I think you
Mhm.
should speak with. And whether it's for a job or for just information or mentorship, like you said, you should reach out to this person, that type of thing. So, um, this is what I'm curious about because there's a quote: if you want more out of your role or your role within an organization, create the job that you want. And who said that? I can't remember, but
Mark said that.
you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Deacon be speaking. Um, was this new role, the philanthropy or the marketing engagement role, um, was it already there? And then they said, "Hey, I think this would be better for you," or "I think you would really thrive here," or was this like, "Hey, let's create a role here"?
Yeah, honestly, it was a little bit a mix of both. So we did have someone that moved in another role in the company. So we do a lot of like internal shifting, if you will.
Mm.
Whether it's kind of like, hey, not that you outgrow grow a role, but it's kind of like, hey, I'm very curious what's over here in this
Okay.
department. Can I go try this? And so it's kind of like, okay, you did such a good job here, and we're always, wanting to grow a person's story and leave them better than we found them. So if it's kind of like, hey, you have interest right over here in this department, let's shift you here. Now, who are we going to shift here?
Mm.
Um, we did a lot of like internal shifting. But also, the person who was in this marketing role was also our managing partner's executive assistant. So she kind of handled two roles at once. Well, now I'm going to step up on the marketing side. We're going to have another executive assistant to just truly focus on this realm so I could focus mostly on marketing events philanthropy and the growth and projection in that is that I could be, a director of one of the three sectors as we continue to grow that team. So priority, maybe I'll lean towards the event side, but all three sectors go hand in hand. So
Right.
growth that's exciting overall too.
I see. So definitely, I think it almost sounds like yes, the role was already there, but the intention is for more of that role to grow, and you're going to
Mhm.
spearhead it essentially. Whereas
Definitely.
before the person was juggling two things, now you can take this and do more. You know,
Exactly.
well done. Congratulations to you on that. And the reason why when you told me, because we planned to have this call like what, a month and a half ago or something
Mhm.
like that, or I mentioned it to you a while ago, and you told me last week that, hey, I'm not going to be recruiting anymore, so I don't know if this really
This
still
makes sense.
matches up. And I'm thinking, no, absolutely, because no one goes to college to recruit. You can't go to
Mhm.
school for it. No one really grows up saying, I want to be a recruiter. You know,
Right.
um, and a lot of times, yeah, there are people that are lifers that end up staying as recruitment and talent acquisition, but some people want to shift out, and that's why I thought this was still like valuable, a valuable conversation to have for anyone that does want to transition to something else. What can I do? What's applicable? And I'd say I'll ask you what your advice is to any of those people here, but what I get from this is, really pay attention to the things that you love doing within your organization, or even start taking initiative to find gaps and fill them, and then try to create your own lane. That's one way of doing it. So, any thoughts on that? Not, that's it's not you can't not everyone can do that, but
No, I'm 100% in agreement with you. It's mostly find those gaps, especially the teams going through. a certain transition or growth period, there typically are gaps. And I think voicing that opinion, whether it's good or bad, saying like, hey, I know this may be a difficult conversation, but this is slacking in our team, whether it's morale or this, that, or the other. I have this idea that can maybe boost morale, whether we make this type of committee. Can I take this and run with this? And here's my plan of execution of, hey, I want to meet like once a month. We'll plan this many events or, something just fun and exciting and take that idea and come in with an action plan that will show that you're a leader, just able to step up and allowing the community, the office, others to shine. And that's the true definition of leadership. Is not just like, hey, look how good I'm looking right now and I'm going to take the spotlight every time. No, it's completely let me shine the spotlight on someone else and play to their strengths. That is also key.
Make other people better. That's what a leader really does. A true one. Some leaders think it's follow me. I want I want the status and power, but a true leader, it just really whatever however that style shows up, it could seem like they're just bossing people around, but in the end of the day, a true leader just wants everyone to thrive and wants the whole machine to run efficiently, whatever that looks like. So, but yeah, I think I want to ask um, one more question since you are still in the recruiting world or transitioning out. Um, more of a general, you know, question for the masses or any recruiters out there. What's your definition of a quality recruiter? Um, what are some things that, or two-part question, quality recruiter? Then where are some places where you think we fall short, generally speaking?
Yeah. I would say, ooh, that is so good. I would say quality recruiter is mostly going to learn how to work with the person. So I understand everyone works a little bit differently, whether it's, I won't call it hand holding, but some people need those checkpoints and saying, like, hey, you're doing really well in X, Y, and Z, but in your next meeting, I want to give you these tips and tricks to impress so and so. You are kind of like the secret spy and need to help this person thrive. So giving them the inside scoop, I think, is always important, and just learning how they function. So pointing to them, if they're maybe a career changer, not saying they know everything, they may not need as many per se like tips and tricks as a younger professional. So keeping that open line of communication all starts from the first interview and learning their story. So I actually started this as recruiting. So a lot of the time, sometimes I will be like sitting at my desk having an interview, whether it's Zoom or on the phone, and I just felt so, not that I even have set questions that I ask, I keep it very conversational. But recently I started going on a walk or just like getting out of the office and talking. It makes the world of a difference because I always go on like walk and talks, if you will, and
Mm-hmm.
it keeps it all the more organic. I'm a lot more present because I'm not sitting at my computer just typing away notes, just getting the answers. No, I'm really engaging in a conversation. So each person you work with is going to be different. And then things where we fall short, I would say, ooh, this is where I like had to like really, really think. Sometimes my
Because you
personal
don't
thing is
fall
that I
short.
don't exactly no, Joshing. I fall short sometimes, especially if I don't say no. And there is a really good quote out there. I'm gonna butcher it. I don't know if you said it either. But it's not just about like your to-do list, it's about what's not on your to-do list. And so I always overcommit and
Mm,
therefore I'm spread a little thin at times because I want to help everyone. But truly, one of my favorite other like quotes or concepts that I like to let everyone that I know who I work with here is you can't just keep grinding. Like you need to take some time away. You can't like grow without that time off. And it's kind of like the gym, I say, you need that recovery day in to grow and be strong. So sometimes saying no to whatever that concept is, that's okay. Um, it doesn't always have to play into recruiting, but in
right,
general, because we take a lot of fun things on.
right.
So that's where I fall short is that piece.
A very noble way to fall short, by the way, by taking on trying to help too many people.
Yeah.
and then it just blows up in your face. But um, I'd say I'm kind of experiencing that myself, um, as in the software engineering world, hiring is kind of slow generally. At my company, I was shifted over to technical sales, and that's just a different world. It's a different speed,
Yeah.
um, and me wanting to just really produce. I think I started off hitting the gate running, reaching out to everybody, not realizing that, oh my good man, I am very spread thin right now. I told you this has been a chaotic last week and a half, and that's kind of why. And that does, you know, to be honest, that takes away from the experience of the candidate if you're not fully present. Um, but yeah, so I like that. The recruiters take notes and also take note of the going into conversations without like really a list of questions to ask. I you know I once I get comfortable in a role, I don't even use a notebook. I don't take notes. Don't tell my bosses. I just kind of memorize, but really it's because I want to be in the conversation. I know it's Friday still, so we got work to do. But that was kind of everything I wanted to talk about. I think there was a lot that to unpack here for anyone that's a current recruiter. Last time I spoke to an engineer, recruiters out here, there's an avenue if you want to get out of recruiting, and then also the right way to recruit in most cases, like in Michelle's case and in my case, is the human route. Don't look at it as a resume. Don't look at everyone as a metric to meet your numbers. Make a connection and really consult. So yeah, and I think we're good. Yeah, mic drop. But Michelle, thank you for hopping on here. Um, I think that's everything for me. I am the Deacon. This is Deacon Speaks channel. Check out my website, talentxm.co. For anyone that wants to be a guest on the
Checking it
show,
out. I'm
go
typing it in.
get get to typing. If you want to be a guest on the show, if you're an engineer or any job really, you just want to talk about your gift, broadcast your gift, sign up on the website. I'm waiting for y'all, man. So, but yeah, Michelle, thank you,
Awesome.
and I guess we're all done here. Peace, people.